let us understand what we are going to discuss for the next hour and a half or something like that. So basically, we'll talk about what is construction material. One material, different requirements, then some uncommon material that we use in construction, and latest material in waiting list. What are the different latest material there in waiting list? And then how to select material latest trend. So this is the theory part of it that I'm going to cover, and then the actual case studies will start from case study 1, the leakage in semicircular building. Then case study 2 is dado tiles tumbling down. Okay, and case study 3, extreme cracking in gypsum plaster, and then I will be concluding on this particular topic. So while talking about the failures, normally the things come in our mind is that the failure is something like a disaster, it's a collapse, it's a catastrophe, something like that. Okay, I'm not talking about that type of failure. What I'm talking about the failure, it is related to quality issues of large volume of works. Okay, maybe large, maybe bigger volume of works where immediate solution to avoid were not available. So there are certain case studies that I have come across where we couldn't find immediate solution. Okay, and many of the failures, such failures, you'll find the immediate solution is not at hand. Okay, you have to think on what should be the reason for this particular failure, and you need to discuss it. You need to brainstorm it, and then only you can find appropriate failure causes. Okay, so that cause we can call it root cause. Okay, so normally we have to take into consideration whenever failures are happening, but most of the time what I see that nobody bothers about to document the failures. Okay, in any organization, anywhere, we don't document failures, why that has happened, and what can be the cause of failure, and how to prevent that failure in future. And if you document it properly, what happens that it can be considered as knowledge gained by the organization. If you are working for certain organization, or you will be working for certain organization, that will be certainly that would be a knowledge. Otherwise, the failures will occur, it will come, it will go, and nobody will learn from the failures. So always we have to think of learning from the failures. So that's why this topic I am every time, most of the time I am talking about the failures and not the success part of it. So we'll go with this particular thing now. Uh, what I say, the structure is made of various elements. A building, a structure, it has got various elements. Like we call it RCC elements. Again, RCC elements can be subdivided into slab, beams, columns, footings, etc. Different elements. There can be walls, partition walls, there can be outside walls, there can be doors and windows. These are all elements. These are all elements are made up of certain, just a minute. Okay. These are all elements made of different material or same material. If we consider RCC as one material, so RCC frame structure can be made of one material. You can have a frame of RCC and slab as a frame as a steel structure and slab as a RCC slab, something different. Even though it can be reverse way, you can have frame structure of RCC and then you can have slab of steel material.
Hello, Himant sir. Hello, Joshi sir. Hello, Human sir. Hello, Joshi sir, are you audible, sir? Hello, hello. Hello, Kulkarni ma'am, are you there, ma'am? Hello, Dicruz ma'am, Missar sir,
Yes, sir.
are you audible? The voice of Heman Joshi sir.
No, no, sir. He is not audible.
Okay, okay. Hello, Heman sir, are you audible? Heman Joshi sir. Sir, we are not audible to you, sir. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, due to some technical error, we'll be starting again in just 1 minute. We are just checking some technical issues. So please hold on. Please hold on.
Respected audience, the feedback link will be available till 5 o'clock today, and you can drop your questions in the chat box as the session proceeds.
Hello.
Hello.
Huh.
Sir, are you
So
audible now,
I
sir?
can
Joshi,
hear
sir?
you. Yeah, I'm Hemant Joshi. Okay, fine. So there was an issue.
Yes, sir.
Shall I start again? Almost from
Yes, sir.
the
Yes, sir.
it was from
From
the
the
first
start.
slide.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. From the
so
first slide.
okay, sorry. So we have spent some time. So hello again. Yeah, I will keep my eye on my mobile also. Thank you. So again, sorry for the disturbance, and let me thank you, AI SSMS College of Engineering Pune and Ultratech management of these two organizations to give me opportunity to discuss about the case studies of failure due to material in civil engineering. So we are going to discuss about the failures due to material, due to choice of material and all that thing. And our index would be something like this. This is about the what is construction material. So we'll discuss some theory part of it initially. So what is construction material? Second thing, one material and different requirements. So even though we use one material, the requirements can be different. There can be uncommon material, some uncommon material we use in construction, and there are certain materials they are waiting to come into the construction, latest material. That also we can see some of the things. Then how to select material, latest trends that we'll see into this particular aspect. And then we'll go to the main part of it. That's case study one. That is a leakage in semicircular building, particularly rainwater leakage in semicircular building. The case two will be dado tiles tumbling down. That is the case 2 that we are going to discuss, and case 3 is extreme cracking in gypsum plaster, and then we'll conclude on this particular session. So this is the index that we are going to discuss. But when coming to the topic about the failures, when we talk about the failures, we think that failures are something like disaster and collapse and catastrophe. That happens once in a while, and a lot of research and study will do it. But I'm talking about the failures. When we talk about these failures, it is related to quality issues of the larger volume. So, more volume is there, more work is there, and where immediate solution to avoid were not available. So the failure is happening, but we don't know what to do about that. So like that, there are many failures that will come across when you work, and you have to think how to solve that particular failure. My topics, case studies are based on this particular aspects of the work. When talking about the structure is made of the various elements. These elements are made of different or same material. Okay, if we consider RCC as a one material, so RCC is a one material, and various elements like beams, columns, footings, slabs, etc., they are made of RCC. It can have different material, like say structural glazing. That is an element of the building or structure, and in that you use two different materials, glass and rubber and aluminum members, etc. So that is the case. The elements has to perform different roles. So beam has to perform different roles, column has to perform different roles, and footing has to perform different roles. And based on the behavior, elements behave in distinct way due to material, different material, due to size and shape of the element, all this thing. So if you look at this particular elements, these elements will behave differently. Okay, if this is a column, when there is a load due to compression, it will bulge. If there is a tension in say some truss members, it will get elongated and it will reduce in cross section over here, and shear, the two surfaces will slide on each other, something like that. So same material and different elements, it will behave differently. That's what I would like to tell about the material part of it. Okay, in case of beams, when there is a load on the beam and it is supported over here, there can be a cracks that will develop because of shear over here, diagonal cracks, and this vertical cracks is related to beams, related to bending, like that. So even in case of same material, behavior can be different due to various aspects of it. And again, if you change the material, it will behave differently. Steel may not get cracked, it will bend, it will warp, it will twist, something like that it will happen. And that's why what happens that what I want to tell you, the material property becomes a very important parameter, because material property will ascertain the behavior of the element, how it will behave. If concrete is there, if concrete is weak, beam will fail, column will fail, and how it will fail, it will be decided by the parameters or properties of that particular concrete. Slab will shrink, there will be a shrinkage cracks, floor will shrink, it will have shrinkage cracks because of the material property. And that's why material property becomes very, very important parameter while choosing the material. Okay, when you choose, you select the material, this becomes very important. Coming to this particular case, what we can call as a construction material. Construction material can be, it is summarized or it is defined in a book by B.K. Hall, in the book of soil engineering. That is, construction material is a material which performs in predictable way under working condition. You have to understand the wherever we are using, whatever construction material you are using, it maybe it bricks, cement, concrete, steel, sand, glass, all that particular material will behave up to certain limit in a predictable way. Even in steel, case of steel, it will have a linear coefficient. Okay, it will have linear progression in case of stress strain diagram. up to yield stress. Later on, it will have its own way of dealing depending on what type of steel it is. But it will perform in predictable way. There is another material which we use as a construction material. But can you tell me, can you think that soil can perform in predictable way? In B.K. Hawk's book on soil engineering, he has said that soil is not a construction material because of the property of soil, which makes it unpredictable under working condition. Soil is not at all predictable. Particularly if the soil we consider that is available on Deccan Plateau, it is very different soil. Even in one plot of construction, the soil parameters will keep on changing. That may not happen at the soil which we are using in say Ganges plain, like Lucknow, Kanpur and all these places, or in Gujarat like Ahmedabad and these Baroda, etc. But overall the soil in the world is unpredictable, but still we use it as a construction material, considering we are doing certain application of applied mechanics so that we can predict how the soil will be behaving. And that's how the construction material is a material which performs in predictable way under the working condition. That is the first thing that we must remember about the construction material. Okay, any material cannot become construction material if we use in construction material. So this is given in this particular book. Book is in 1969 edition, old book. Now we are talking about one material. If we consider RCC is a composite material, it has got concrete and it has got steel, and concrete is also heterogeneous material, all this thing. But for the time being, if we consider RCC as a one material, what is the requirement for this concrete to have this type of bridge? You require a good strength. Okay, you require early strength in this concrete if you are doing this particular girder as a pre-stressed girder. You require quite a good durability for this because the sections are thin and strengths are high. So durability point of view, so it should have RCPT value less, something like that. Okay. Or you can think of permeability of the concrete. So there are certain requirements when you talk about this type of concrete. Okay, same concrete, if we start using it for the road, pavement quality concrete, again the parameters for this particular concrete to make this particular concrete usable, it changes. In PQC, what we are more concerned about, the flexural strength of the concrete. Okay, so concrete should not have, though it may have a good compressive strength, it should also have flexural strength, and basically concrete will be tested for the flexural strength. Okay, so same concrete, in case of pavement, it will have something different requirements. Then come a large dams. This is a mass concrete. In case of mass concrete, though certain requirement of strength will be there for this particular concrete, but main requirement will come that it should have low heat of hydration. It should have low heat of hydration, so that it should mass concrete should not get cracked within the its volume. So that's why it is very, very essential that one concrete, even if you are using at different location, you have to think of this thing. Look at this particular concrete in say spillways. What type of things you must okay, when gates are open and there is a spillway, what type of forces that concrete will come across? A very large discharge of concrete. It can have a lot of erosion because of this water flowing. All right. It should have a smooth surface also. And there is one IS code, I think it is 457, which will give you correct tolerances in formwork for such type of concrete. No other places IS code has given formwork tolerances. In this case only they have given in 457 tolerances like F1, F2, F3, F4, and U1, U2, U3, something like that. Okay, so like if even one material, there can be a different requirements. That is what I want to say. Okay, so these are there. Now coming to uncommon material. The uncommon material may not be very uncommon. Nowadays, you can see this tensile fabric everywhere. So it is used for roof covering. But now this tensile fabric you can also use for, you can see over here, false ceiling in the room. Okay, this tensile fabric that is nowadays it is getting popular. Also, now more recent trend is you can use it as a cladding. Instead of glass facade or glazing facade, you can use tensile fabric as a facade material. So tensile fabric is not a one type of material. It is a composite material. Again, it can be a PVC coated polyester fabric, which may not last long. But whereas PTFE coated glass fabric, it can be for permanent structures, and there can be some material like ETFE foils for permanent structure, and also PVC glass fabric. So fabrics are different, and this particular tensile fabric is made out of many layers, something like that. Top, bottom layer will be different, and fabric will be different inside. So this is how this uncommon material at uncommon location we can start using it. You can have that particular aspect when you'll be on the site. Then another uncommon material is this polyurea. Okay, this is considered to be a super material nowadays. Okay, it is used for waterproofing. It is fast drying material, very fast drying material. It is seamless, so whenever it joints with itself, it has got perfect joint. And why it is called a super material, because you can make something like indestructible coating. There are some videos in which you can coat watermelon with polyurea, and you can use that watermelon as a ball. Okay, you can play football. Okay, the watermelon will not get damaged, something like that. Okay, so this is polyurea. Right now polyurea is somewhat costly, but for special applications definitely it has its use. This is something I'm talking about, this material, new material. Then there can be, you can think of GFRC. Okay, GFRC right now it is not a very old material. Nowadays it is a commonly used in construction, in special construction rather. It may not be used in residential to that extent, but some of the material that can be used as a GFRC. It has got a lot of properties, better properties. It is lightweight. It is durable. It can take a lot of stresses and all this thing. So you can make a this is a picture of Mumbai airport, and this is how the cladding, this thing can be made. A decorative cladding can be made, and you can use it like screens in residential buildings. GFRC has got its own advantage. So the advantage is like that: the glass fibers about 10% by volume, if you put it into the mix, the tensile strength roughly increased by 2 times, and the impact resistance by 10 times. So concrete becomes good for the impact part of the loads that is coming on this thing, on the elements. So like that, GFRC is a latest material that we can use at various places. Okay. Next material what I can talk about is much very rarely used in India as such. I don't know exactly, but it is called ultra high performance concrete. Nowadays, there is a quite a good fashion of using high performance concrete. So high performance concrete is not necessarily high strength concrete. It should perform in good way. It should be durable. It should be non-cracking. It should be non-porous. All that performance parameters are considered. But this particular concrete, it is ultra high. Okay, you can have a span of say 120 meters or something like that, very lightweight and very durable. The minimum strength of high performance concrete is almost 150 MPa. When we talk about our normal concrete, it is 25. So minimum strength is 150 MPa, and that's why your section can reduce to a certain extent. It will not. It doesn't have any reinforcement, but it has got certain steel fibers in it, and that's why it doesn't corrode or corrosion or bad weather or something like that. It will not affect to that extent. If you look at this particular diagram over here, if the reinforcement concrete has this much weight, 530 kgs, if you use UHPC, that is high performance, ultra high performance concrete, then its weight is reduced to almost 1/4, 25% only, and that is how that becomes a very, very green material as such. Okay, because you are not using a lot of material to do that. So this is another material, that is UHPC. Then there are some latest material in wetting list. That's what I think. So we can use this material if it is possible. You can use this is metal foam. You have seen the foam concrete and all this thing, or you have studied about that foam concrete. But this is a metal foam, particularly for aluminium, and this is what it can give us a better choice or better parameters over here. It is high capacity of impact energy absorber. It can absorb a lot of energy. Better insulation with load carrying capacity. So it carries a load, and also it gives you insulation as against thermal insulation or sound insulation. And it is very, very light, 95% voids. Okay. So in concrete, you don't have that much voids, because basically concrete is a weak material as compared to metal. But in metal, you can almost go with the 95% of void. So if you can understand, if your density of aluminum is around 3000, something like that. So 95% of just a 5% of that means 150 kgs per m³ will be the weight of this particular material, and it will have good capacity of impact and load carrying. There is another wonder material that is called graphene, which is made out of carbon. Graphene means it's a single atomic layer of carbon which is interconnected with each other like this. Okay, you know graphite. Graphite is a layer. It has got layers in it, and that's why graphite can be used as a good what you call lubricant. Okay, graphite is a dry lubricant. You can use it because it is in layers. Graphene is a very thin layer. Okay, and it is actually wonderful material. It is the world's strongest material. It is a corrosion resistance. If you put a layer of graphene on some material, that material can become corrosion resistant completely. It can be used, particularly graphene oxide can be used as a concrete adhesive, and it is the lightest material, that is almost 0.77 mg per square meter. Very light. You won't feel the weight also. So like that, the graphene, this can be also used in construction, particularly maybe those who are in colleges and all these things, they may be eventually checking whether graphene oxide can be used in concrete to increase the strength of the concrete. So this is the latest material in wetting list. Another thing is not actually material, but it is a composite paneling. Okay. Nowadays, we are mostly using blocks, masonry blocks as a partition walls or something like that. But that partition wall has got a limitation. because the partition has to perform many of the activities, many of the parameters. Many requirements are there for partition. It should be soundproof, it should be waterproof, it should be heat proof or thermal proof. All these aspects are there for partition. And believe me, in buildings, particularly residential buildings, bigger area is composed of the walling and not the framing. Framing is just some small part. Walling is the major area. So how the walling can be developed? So for the different requirements, different layers can be put together and composite paneling can be made. These different layers. There can be a filler material, there can be a waterproof, and there can be a weather resistant outer this material. All these things, if you see, it is a different material. Fire retardant material is also there. So different material, they are clubbed together and used it, and that becomes a one material having a different properties. So that those properties are very important for us. Like that, these are the latest thing that I think it is in waiting list. Now, how to select material? The latest trend is the material should be eco-friendly. So many companies, many organizations wants to construct the construction which can be eco-friendly, and that's why this particularly thrust on eco-friendly construction is there nowadays. Okay, and government is also giving certain incentives if you have got that particular aspect in your work. So you have to think of whether that material can be reused, whether it has got low embodied energy, means while production your energy is used less. So cement and steel has got a lot of embodied energy because you require a lot of energy while manufacturing steel and cement. Whether it is a biodegradable, so plastic is not a biodegradable. Okay, so you have to think of those particular aspects. So whether it can prevent pollution, okay, it should not affect pollution. It should be non-toxic, particularly paints. Okay, paints VOC should be least, that is volatile organic should be less, and it should be salvaged. It can be salvaged, means it can be used as a scrap. It should be energy efficient. Okay, so whenever you are using energy in any building or any element, so you have to consume less energy while using it. So it should be recyclable and it should be locally available. So all these things are requirement of eco-friendly material. Okay, so from this, because this is a new topic that we have to understand when we go on the site as from the student when you go. But how to select material? Very essential. The material has to be selected in proper way. Does material have any approved parameters and tests? So many material we should think of. People will come with the material and they don't have any approved parameters and tests available. So it has started earlier with fly ash. People used to come with the fly ash. The fly ash you can mix in the concrete, but there were no known parameters and tests available. That is any people that those who can test it, and that's why using fly ash will be always something people who used to think, "Arey, hum kaise use karenge? How we can use this particular material?" Does material available in the required quantity and manufactured in controlled condition? That becomes very essential. It should be manufactured in controlled condition. Okay. Another aspect, can material perform satisfactorily under working condition? If it is a new material, you have to see that whether that particular material can perform under the working condition. If somebody is saying, a lot of debate was going on that some paint you can apply on the roof which will make your room cooler. Okay, there was a lot of debate. People are saying it affects, it doesn't affect, and all these things. So like that, you have to really see the performance of that particular material. Understand the suitability and advantage of the material. If material is really suitable for the role that it is going to play, that element, that particular role is going to play, and understand limitations of the material. If it is used, what are the limitations? We all know the using AAC block is very good because it reduces load and all these things. It has got good insulation, but there are some aspect which have to be covered as a limitations. There are certain limitations in that. So those limitations has to be understood. Okay, so that is how you have to select the material. Now we'll go to case studies. These 3 case studies. These case studies were from different duration and location. So it is not recent. There can be different duration and at different location also. So not every it is not from Pune or something like that. There can be a different solution, but why failure took place is more important. So people normally come to me, what is the solution, whether this solution is correct or not. Don't think about the solution. Solution will come eventually. Okay, because immediate solution is not available, and that's why this case study I have taken as a failure. But look why this particular issues has been created. Okay, how you can avoid these issues, or you can have a corrective preventive actions for these failures. Think of that. Purposely, I am not covering case studies related to concrete. Okay, many seminars are going regarding concrete and all this thing aspect of the work. Okay, I am not covering those particular aspect of the work. Concrete, I am going with different material, different elements. These case studies are not documented case studies. Hence, the data in case studies is only suggestive. So if I am saying something is 10 meters, it may not be 10 meters, it can be 11 meters, it can be 12 meters, but it is a suggestive data. Something like that, okay, wherever in that case study has come. So we'll start with the case study, just a minute. So this is the first case study. This is the first case study. Leakage in semicircular building. So we have constructed at one place this type of clubhouse. Okay, it is a semicircular clubhouse having around 10 meters of its width. And there are rooms over here, and there are some passages in this area, and there is a balcony outside on this side. Okay, and when this thing was constructed, what has happened? We did sort of waterproofing on top. It has got sloping slab on top of it like this. This is the end on this side. This is section AA I have taken like this, and this is a sloping slab. And because it is a sloping slab, what we thought that we don't require a very intensive type of waterproofing for this slab, because slab width is also minimum. And that's what we have got a lot of brick bats available on our site. And we thought of the best way of to do this thing is use this type of brick bats and have a just 50 mm thick. Normally brick bat we call it India waterproofing, India waterproofing type of waterproofing. It is normal thickness is 115 or 100 mm thick. But this is a sloping to create the slope. So the slab itself was sloping, and that's why what we thought we can make it in 50 mm thick waterproofing so that we can save material. So we have given the agency, and agency did the work. So first year there was some problem a little bit over here in these rooms. These were AC rooms. This side it is an open passage like that, and this side there is a balcony. So maybe 1.5 feet or 6 feet balcony. This passage may be 2.5 meters or something like that, and this AC room can be 4-5 meters something like that. Okay, so this was the thing. So first year we got some leakages, and we thought that is because our waterproofing layer was not correct, and that's why and we also saw that there was some cracking. Again, after some time, in same monsoon region, we again repaired the waterproofing brick bat. Again, that started cracking. So that went on for 2 years, and then we really got worried what has happened. So when we visited the site again and we surveyed and with this thing, so we started what we started doing, the major crack we plotted like this on the plan. So major cracks were somewhere here like this, okay, in this particular area. This slab portion is almost something by 2-way slab it may be coming. There is a The cracks were in the portion where there is no top reinforcement. Okay, so we know that there is a waterproofing layer which has cracked, but it is cracking at this portion only, not anywhere else. In this portion where there is no top reinforcement. So we thought something about that, why it will happen so, and we discussed it with many people, some people, not many people. One of them was Ravi Ranade sir, who had presented his first session in this particular program. So when I told him this is a semicircular building and we are having a crack on the particular waterproofing area, he said, told me, okay, look at this semicircular building will expand and contract in definite way. It will expand and contract in this way. So this is a larger perimeter. This is a larger perimeter. It will expand more because this is a larger one, and this is inside is a smaller one. It will expand small. So what is happening? There is a differential expansion in this, and because of differential expansion, this slab can get cracked. It will be something like this. Okay, can you see this? Okay, so it is rather dull, this thing. But if you try to tear a paper, you try to pull it from one side. Okay, if you pull the entire paper, it won't get teared. It won't get teared. But if you pull it on the top, it will start tearing from the top. So this way it is happening in this particular slab, and that's why the cracks are happening. So now there is no way to prevent the cracking. Okay, it will always crack in the summer and something like that, and the waterproofing will. The only remedy for this particular thing is to provide waterproofing which has got certain crack bridging ability. Okay, which has got certain crack bridging ability. So again, we call the contractor. We have to remove the whatever waterproofing we did over there, and we applied waterproofing with certain membrane. Okay, there are certain various methods there you can do the waterproofing with membrane. So we applied those particular membrane waterproofing with chemicals, and things was resolved. Because that membrane can take that cracking or that can bridge the cracks over there. Okay, you need not to worry about even the cracks are happening in the slab. This is how the waterproofing, whenever you are considering what type of waterproofing we have to do, we have to look how the building is going to behave. Because if building is going to behave in distinct way, the way waterproofing it will affect. The way of waterproofing it will affect. Sometimes the building you can the roof slab you can use it to keep certain DG sets, some machineries, all these things, or there can be a vibration. Whether those vibrations can be catered by the waterproofing layer that you are going to put it, that should be also understood. Sometimes if building is too large, the expansion and contraction in the building, particularly at near the expansion joint, you have to think how the treatment should be carried out. Most of the failure in the roof waterproofing, whatever I have seen, is at the expansion joint in a bigger building. Invariably expansion joint cracks, and there is no way you can prevent the expansion joint from cracking unless you use a correct material. So that becomes a very important lesson for us. Whenever you are choosing material, see what it has to suffer. Okay, so this is the first case study that I am going to talk about. I have talked about. Then this was a second case study. There was a dado tiles in the passage. Okay, this is just an example of that particular. This is not from that particular site. This is some example that passage was similar to this almost. Okay, there was tiling on both the sides, like and long passages having doors like this. In passages, there were vitrified tiles has been put on this dado over here to 1 meter, and 150 size of granite and 150 thickness granite or white granite has been put as a strip over there, decorative strip over there. This particular we completed the job, and as we are advancing with the job, my tiles were tumbling down. It is coming out. We have pasted these tiles on, say, half brick masonry, and in cement mortar. Okay. What we want to tell our architect over there is no such material which is good, cheap, and fast. Okay. And this particular material doesn't exist. Some material can be a good, some material can be cheap, some material can be fast and cheap, some material can be fast and good, but there is no material which can comply with all these three things. Our architect tried to have these things, that whatever material we are going to use, it should be good and fast, because you don't have to go for the other material. Same material, whatever there is material in flooring, same material he has used for the dado or this particular wall tiling, so that these two things will match with each other, and only granite, whatever we are using, that would be granite strip, will be giving it a linear aesthetics like that. So the tile started tumbling down, and we are worried. So what to do? Almost there is a lot of things, and our clients used to visit, and he has to see, and what this is happening, you are not doing good work and all these things. We are getting a lot of firing from the client and all these things, but we couldn't prevent it. So this is how the things were that. So this is a floor tile, 600 by 600 by 10 thick, good material from a good manufacturer that we have used, and same tiles were fixed over here with the cement mortar. And this is just a 115 thick wall. Inside is a room. This is a passage, a wide passage, maybe 2 meter thick, 2 meter wide passage. Something common passage outside the room were almost, and it was almost 1,000 running meters on 3 floors, 3 different floors. Okay, and almost 600 to 700 running meter dado was fall or become loose. Okay, something has not fallen; it may have become loose also. But you can see there is a debonding happening between tiles and mortars. So we tried with different ways. We scrapped the mortar. We used a mortar with high strength. Okay, so but again after 2-3 months, it used to fall down. Couldn't get why this is happening, and our architect also, he was in trouble. He was saying he stood there and try what wrong we are doing, but he couldn't find the way what is happening wrong. So we referred various literatures, and in one literature of MYK Laticrete, those who manufacture tile adhesives, okay, they have written this particular sentence, which has come to my eyes, and they are very typical sentence. The closed pore structure of vitrified tiles does not allow crystal growth, resulting into non-mechanical bond. Hence, vitrified tiles installed with plain cement mortar gets easily debonded. Now understand, vitrified tiles has got very low porosity or very low water absorption. So whatever cement mortar or whatever cement paste you are applying on the tile, it doesn't at all get stuck to the tile. And that's why, particularly on floors, the tile may remain with in the position because of its weight, and it cannot get displaced easily. But on the wall tiles, it can get easily debonded. So what we concluded, we referred to other this thing also from Ball Endura. They are having one handbook. In that handbook, it is also given that tiles, these wall tiles, they should be thin enough. It cannot be more than 8 mm thick, because the weight of tile will create issue for the debonding also. So use of floor tile in place of dado tiles is incorrect, as floor tiles do not have good bonding capacity due to very, very less water absorption. And if you look at the its technical data, the water absorption for floor tiles, these are the floor tiles, is less than 0.1%. 0.1%. Believe me, normal granite or normal even stone, it has got at least 2-3% water absorption. Okay, normal cement tiles may have 8 to 10% absorption. This is below 0.1%. In certain technical data sheet, they have shown that water percentage is as low as 0.05%. Okay, so very less water percent, and that's why this tile is not at all suitable to use as a wall tile. If you compare this with the wall tile water absorption, that ceramic wall tile, Kajaria, okay, it has got water absorption more than 10%. And in their case, it can be between 10 and 15%, something like that, our values. It is less than 15% and more than 10%, something. So this is what we have learned from this particular failure. Later on, we changed the tiles and we removed those fallen tiles and fixed wall tiles over there. Use proper adhesive. Otherwise, you can use it proper adhesive. But Bal Endura says for vitrified tiles, we have got adhesive which doesn't perform on the bonding, mechanical bonding. It will have different type of bondings like that. And also smaller size, up to 8 mm thick. It should tile should not be 10 mm thick. The weight of tile becomes too heavy. And ceramic wall tiles has to be used. So in such cases, ceramic wall tiles, that is better to use like that. Okay, so from this particular two cases, you can understand the selection of material becomes very, very important. How you can select the material. It cannot be just aesthetics. It cannot be just the availability of the material. It's the property of material what is important. Third case is related to extreme cracking in gypsum plaster. So that time we have just started using gypsum plaster in place of cement plaster, because those were the days when it has been started that you cannot use river sand. River sand was getting having a scarcity, lot of scarcity. Government was not allowing to extract the river sand. It was in the initial phase, somewhere around 2008, 2009, maybe. I don't remember exactly. And the work was in very hot and dry region. Okay, so interior of Maharashtra, somewhere there. The scarcity of water also there, and the river sand was there, which was required for cement plaster. So two things are required. You require a lot of water. You require river sand to cure it. River sand to use it in the plaster. Both were not available, and we were required to rethink. So what material we can use? So the decision was taken by engineers and managers on the side that since we are using gypsum plaster inside, so we can use same gypsum plaster on the open passage. There was one open passage in the office, which was almost 100 running meter long, and the width may be 7-8 meters. So at the extreme end there was a wall, and that wall can be plastered with gypsum plaster. We need not go for cement plaster, as we had already replaced cement plaster with gypsum plaster in interior of the halls and roofs. Correct. Okay, when we started the work in midsummer, the temperature must be around 45 degrees and very low humidity was there, and a lot of wind also. So all this together, we plastered a wall maybe around 100 meter long, and height maybe 5-6 meters height maybe there. So we plastered it, and after plastering, when wall got dried, we observed there is a lot of cracking, okay, on the surface of wall. When we surveyed the cracks were only to the depth of gypsum plaster. Entire wall, plaster beyond this thing is not cracked. Okay, whatever gypsum plaster we have done, that was cracked. The pattern cracks were then treated with some crack filler and we went ahead. So, but the question remained, why the crack has, why the plaster has cracked to that extent? It's a large cracking. And our client was not Indian client, he was a foreigner, and he was exasperated. Why this cracking is happening? Always, foreigner client, they will see, if they see a crack on any concrete wall and something like that. This is a new construction. I don't expect any cracking on this. They used to always say like that. And in our Indian culture, we say, okay, new construction will crack, and once we fill the cracks, it will vanish. But they were not accepted. They were not accepting by cracking it's happening. And in our mind also, why only this plaster has got cracked? So we went through various specifications and details, and in one particular thing I got this particular graph: plaster drying conditions. So when plaster is drying, particularly this is related to gypsum plaster, they have said over here, to develop a proper performance characteristics, drying rate of the plastering material must be strictly controlled during and after application. Plaster should not be allowed to dry too slowly or too fast. If possible, maintain building temperature humidity combination in normal drying area of the graph on the next page. The excessive ventilation or air movement should be avoided to allow plaster to properly set. We have not taken care of any of this particular aspect in the work. No, any. Temperature was not controlled. You cannot control temperature. You cannot control humidity over there because this is an open passage. Also, you cannot control the wind. And still, we went and did the
Hello, Joshi sir, are you audible, sir?
Hello? Hello?
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
We can't hear Hemant, sir.
Hello.
Hello? Hemant Joshi, sir?
We are contacting him on his phone. I guess there's some network issue at his place.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Hello?
Now you are audible, sir.
Okay. So fine. So I will go with this. So screen this way.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So actually, I think we have missed certain points on this particular graph. Sorry for interruption. So if you look at this graph, this is relative humidity versus temperature, and on our side the temperature was almost 43-45 degrees, and for that particular thing to have a good condition, combination of the condition of temperature and humidity, you need a humidity more than 80% or up to 90% humidity. Okay, that cannot be possible, and that's why our area was almost in rapid drying area, and our this thing gypsum plaster must have dried very rapidly, and that's why it has developed. Otherwise gypsum doesn't crack. Okay, you know, gypsum doesn't crack, and that's why it can be used as a finishing material. But because of rapid drying, it has cracked, and this is the condition that we must understand. For gypsum plaster, you require certain temperature and combination of temperature, humidity, and wind. Ambient conditions, it is very, very essential. Like also for concrete, concrete also requires good ambient conditions. Otherwise it will get plastic shrinkage cracks, and most of the time you see the cracks on the top of slab is because of this ambient conditions, temperature, humidity, as well as wind. So once these environmental conditions are met, you can have a good gypsum plaster. So inside room, there may not be issue. You can maintain humidity by spraying water. You can maintain a low temperature because they are already inside, and there will not be any wind, and that's why the inside room the plaster will not get cracked. But outside passage, you have to be very careful how to close that particular passage from temperature and wind. So these are the learnings that we have got on our project, and this particular graph has come from this handbook. So no Indian handbook has given me this type of graph. Not even it is available for even concrete. Concrete, we are referring to the graph of from ACI, American Concrete Institute. So this data, when you search on the net and you get it, then you can definitely work towards this. So now coming to this conclusion, what is essential that whatever is the material, it has its one best use, technique, and location. So whatever material, it has got one best use. So it has to be used in that particular fashion. It has to be used for that particular technique. You cannot use your concrete for normal concrete for say say 3D printing. 3D printing will require different type of concrete altogether. Okay, so or even for making grills like GFRC grills, you require that particular technique for that particular material. Location also, it depends weather location. Any material which is used outside India or maybe in Europe and America, it may not perform in India. It may not perform in India because the location is different, ambient conditions are different, uses are different. When deciding to choose material, think what is the performance required. Conduct tests and check to understand that. So whenever you are doing testing, it is not the testing you are doing to confirm the material against certain parameters, but to understand how it is going to behave. That is the major aspect of the testing that we must understand. Choosing material. Okay, choosing material, I will always say it is like choosing a girlfriend or a boyfriend, something like that. If there are certain ladies, I will talk about this thing, choosing material. Well, choosing material, you may not have to pay it, but you'll spend it later on. You can see in this particular video how to choose material, and if you choose the wrong material, what happens. Okay, this is a very short. Okay, understood this particular thing, or I should go again? You can see the boy has not paid, but he had spent the money, and that can happen with the material. You may not pay for the material, but you'll spend the money, and that's why very carefully you have to choose the material. Now, what is my advice or what is my suggestion is rather what we can think of. We need a specialized material engineer or an architect with the architects or project management consultant who can give. There has to be certain process to choose material. We don't have that particular process in any of our project management, in any of our project, whatever I have experienced 5 years back. So material is just decided. There is no process of deciding how the material is decided. Yeah, maybe sometimes it is decided on the basis of cost, maybe sometimes it is basis of some requirement, something like that. But correct material at correct place, it is not decided, and that's we need to develop. And to develop that particular aspect, what I think that colleges and institutions can develop that this stream to help the construction fraternity. We don't have anybody who is expert in material engineering. We don't have anybody. There are people who are good in as a RCC consultant, good in as a formwork consultants, etc. But more than that, there are other material what we use in the buildings and structures. We don't have those specialists. We need to develop that particular specialist, and college and institution can take that particular priority with them and develop material engineering stream. That is very required, very much required. That's what I feel, because many a times with a wrong choice of material, our projects, our buildings, they fail. Okay, thank you very much. So if there are any comments or any